we're at the start of a video and I didn't do the story so far this era. This is the end of the third era that we're here. It has been a period of some chaos. There's no question about that. But the 30 Years' War wasn't much. I believe that happened here. Most of the chaos has been internal rebellions and religious strife going on inside the countries. Very minor expansions, and we'll take a quick look country by country and then religious as well. So France went Protestant because they were just getting overwhelmed. Protestantism looked like it was just going to take over everywhere, but the counter-reform actually did start a little later. The rebellions we have are non-religious, but they're problematic all the same. We're in interregnum. I don't know why. Because we're sitting on this King Francisco here. And I probably took a hit for being in an interregnum. It's a card I don't particularly want for anything. So I don't know what happened there. Let's take a look at what the cost for the interregnum was. That was a stability. Okay. Obviously I wasn't in one at this stage. When could I have lost them later? I could have lost them, and I bet you I did, in a fight with the rebels. So I'm okay. It doesn't affect anything, and I can play that king as desired, but I can hold off and see what comes up in the events because maybe there's something I want there. So that's the how that happened, as I wonder. The Spaniards. So Spain has just never managed its European power. It's never managed to absorb the Aragonese inheritance. And you can see, I've got some of it still. I've got a marriage with Aragon, but I don't have anything else. There is religious problems going on here. We have the counter-reform going in Spain, though. And we have some vassalages. Well, we have a royal marriage with the Austrians. That's because of the Spanish succession situation. We're still holding on to provinces in the Netherlands, for what that's worth, and Morocco. Haven't expanded too much into the New World. Nobody really has left the continent much. And what else? Well, we're being ruled by some kind of weird reformer, an Oliver Cromwell type there, who has decided to crack down and take the Counter-Reformation, which I'm marking with these things, so there aren't enough counters for the game. The English went Protestant very early. They were actually the first territories to declare themselves as Protestant under Henry VIII. And since then, well, they've been having struggles. Financially, they're a mess. They made no income whatsoever. A little bit of exploration and colonization, but not very much going on. And dead last in the victory point standings. You can see the Turks have made it around the corner. Austria. Austria used the 30 Years' War to do a little bit like the actions within that, to conquer Saxony, to get Brandenburg as a vassal. They're kind of growing in power. The empire itself has diminished. So, for example, Bohemia has been added to Polish territory. That was quite a while ago. A lot of this is. And there have been constant struggles over Savoy, but now it's a vassal of Spain, so the Austrians are less in a position where they have to defend it. What is next? The Poles. The Poles had managed to finally create a commonwealth of some sort, and also they've expanded into the Baltic area and have the ports and whatnot. They still have to build up a fleet, but after they do that, they'll score their mission there. And we forgot to talk about the Turks at all. The Turks are pretty solid, honestly. A lot of income, a lot of power. They've finally taken out the Mamluks. Their counter mix is being stretched at this point. Now, you've got to get rid of everything to win the game with an automatic victory. And that's pretty hard to arrange. But you could end up using up, all of your large cities, no big deal there, all of your small cities, but, or maybe all of your vassals, but not get everything and then have a hard time because you can't do certain kinds of actions because of countermix limitations more than anything else. They have kind of a weak leader, but they have a better leader sitting over here in Murad the Fourth, and some interesting choices available there. We're expecting the War of Spanish Succession to trigger here. And then there's 2 more power struggles to go, one of which is going to be probably 7 Years' War era, and one of which is going to be the Napoleonic Wars in era 4. That's what we expect. Turkey got itself a claim off the map, so it can finally use some of its capabilities. In terms of religion, like I said, the Counter-Reformation started, and we've got them showing up here, 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 these little pockets of Counter-Reform religion. They're not going to all get overwhelmed, but yeah, it's going to be kind of difficult for them to overcome just the massive size of the Protestant area. The advantage they have is the Protestant area is pretty much monolithic, which means that because of the way clusters work, it only expands one area, whereas those 3 counter-reform areas are each different clusters. So right now they will each expand one area for a total of 3. There's some possibility of further expansion up here, but not a lot. In terms of nations, the remaining Catholic nations have all gone counter-reform. That allows them to do things like use their missionaries or their change religion actions and stuff like that to lay down counter-reform religion spaces, which are infectious, is I think the word, like Protestantism is, so that these clusters end up growing. Normal Catholicism isn't going to attract any new converts except through state action, but there's automatic actions that trigger the infectious religions. I guess that's about it. The destruction of the Mamluks was kind of exciting. We've got some other stuff in the New World. The Portuguese have made it to Timor and the Hudson Bay. And the Danes, of course, are still there in the Caribbean. But overall, this game, at least my playing of it, has generated a hell of a lot less colonial activity than either historically happened or happens in the old EU. And a lot of that has to do, with a combination of things. It's not a cheap action, it's a risky action. Other things can be done automatically. And trying to keep a hold on your unrest is an issue there. But another factor is that I've been, I screwed up the rules and kind of cheated all game by not, it has to do with the cost of holding cards, basically. People didn't have as much cube production as they should have, and some other factors too. And that's really kind of gotten in the way. So overall, everybody's had less to do, or less they could do, and so they were, concentrating on keeping their country from falling apart and not able to do as many sort of discretionary actions. Wow, I found the word. I'm having so much trouble finding words in my head anymore. I know that they're there, and it just feels like it's getting. I'm getting old, man, but I think I'm also going senile. Um, in certain ways, at least. I don't know. It's like when I hear a word, I know what it means. I had a couple of friends mention they'll hear words and they don't know what they mean anymore, and they're bothered by that. That I don't have a problem with, but I'm having trouble reaching for the words that I know are there. I've always had some difficulty with that, right? Finding the perfect word for a situation or whatever. But it's getting much, much worse where I have to use really simple words to try to express things sometimes. And I just feel like an idiot when I can't find the right word. Okay. Anyway, for the Turks, I made this decision. They're running out of missions that are able to be done, that are at all. Like, they've done a good enough job of meeting most of their goals. These are probably not things I can do. I need to get my country in order. But, might as well have the most likely things out there to concentrate on. But I don't think I'm going to go to war with Austria and or Hungary, well, with Hungary and Austria, in order to get the control of the Danube and control of the Barbary Coast. This would be a little easier. And I do have some military cubes, so maybe, but it's a walk, or a boat ride. It would take a couple of cubes just to get there. The actual attack, though, should be pretty easy. And I could actually just build an army here instead. That would be probably big enough. Well, Raid has eaten up all of yesterday, Thursday, and it's Friday, and almost time for me to, it's almost time for me to hit my day switch on Raid or whatever it is. I don't know. A lot of stuff becomes available that I have to do, especially since I'm going dancing. But more than dancing, I'm actually leaving a little early today because I've got a dinner to do too, which is weird. Very weird. We'll see. But yeah, life is really, really pressing me right now. Mainly the addiction, because there's this event, and it's basically 2 weeks of you must play constantly. If not constantly, I mean, you have to put in like 12 hours a day or something. At least I do at my level of the account and the fact that I'm not paying money. So I did not get to starting this turn. I got the cards dealt out and everything, but I haven't actually started the actions. And I don't know where people are going. So somebody like Turkey, who has a lot of different choices, I don't think they're going to go to war with Austria yet. But this wouldn't be necessarily a bad turn. I almost know that this is going to be triggered now. And I don't mind that. I kind of like these because these represent simmering problems. You know what I'd like to look at? I'd like to look at what's not being used there. Right? Because there are some that did not get programmed in. The Deluge, an Eastern one, Poland, the Holy League. Remember, there's a Holy League card in there. I kind of wish all of these were in. Distant Trade, make it to China and everything. And the Great Northern War. Again, this is perhaps a problem with my plans or thoughts of programming a game with broader implications. So right now the game only holds 6. I've been playing around with ideas in my head, and other people have been responding with their own thoughts about it, of trying to make this more like the original EU, where players change where they are, what nation that they are, maybe by pre-programming like the old one did, or just by, hey, I think I can make more points by switching, which was what Austria was in the original game. Like, nobody ever took Austria because the Dutch just generated so much victory points off their merchants that there was just no way. There was no way that Austria would make more points. You could just look at the calculation. And that's problematic. Any decision based on victory points in the old game is very suspect because the victory point system is so screwed up. And I've already explained some issues of that. But yeah, one of the big ones is you have this option to trade the Dutch in for the Austrians, and you would never take it. Even though the Dutch are past their prime and Austria is, you know, actually becoming Austria-Hungary in a sense. It's actually becoming a powerful state that, you know, the one that enters into the Napoleonic Wars there, as opposed to just the Habsburg kind of conglomerate of confusion. But unless I can figure out a way to get these additional power plays in, well, there should be the power play that connects Russia and Poland here and causes wars there. There should be anyway some of those others that were in place. The Great Northern War probably can be ignored if you don't have, well, see, here's the problem. Poland was in the Great Northern War, right? So Saxony for that matter. But I mean, if you take Sweden and Russia out, the Great Northern War doesn't make sense. But if you had major players as those, and there are probably scenarios for just covering that eastern half of Europe in that second scenario book, giving you something kind of like the Time of Wars game, I guess. But certainly the expansion into China, man, that should be there. There should be others too, perhaps. Look at this. The Holy League one is the attacks against the Turks and whatnot. Spain already has something for that, so I'm actually not that opposed to it, but it does take away some points the Turks could get here. And here's the thing. If you play with these, with all of them, is that going to be an unbalancing factor? For example, Holy League adds a source of victory points for Spain and for Turkey. Turkey seems to be doing perfectly fine. Spain, I don't think they need to be involved in another one of these. Of course, other countries could get involved in it. Historically, really, it was Spain and to a very small extent Portugal who were playing in that North African realm. Some of the others, well, you know, is Poland getting enough with the Balkans and the 30 Years' War to justify, you know, are they going to get things swung too far in their advantage? And that's sort of where it comes. So the tinkering in this game isn't to make something that lets you have powers that operate at all. Like, that's sort of this bare minimum for the old EU. It's, are the changes that you're making going to unbalance the game? And that, it's a so much better position to be in, right? Like, I can think of, hey, if I just had the pieces, I could do, you know, there's everything I need, the events and whatnot that I need to put in. But the question of the power plays becomes a kind of interesting one. Because you want them all there. You may not want them all to fire. And you want them to come up at the right times, which is problematic. So I can't just shuffle them all together, you know, or stack them and shuffle a few by time and whatnot. It may mean that I need to add additional cards to the deck of a type that trigger power plays and maybe allow more than one power play at a time or something like that. This is the kind of stuff that the first iteration, like this first play, raises the questions, but the first time I tinker is going to start pointing to the answers. I don't have those right now. Boy, do I feel lost. First of all, between dancing and my addiction, real, you know, just kept me from being able to play. But also I was having trouble making decisions Was it on Thursday or Friday? Whatever, Thursday it would be, because Friday was a little more rushed than usual. And yeah, all said, this is the first time I've celebrated a birthday in any way in like decades, many decades probably. Just, you know, going out to dinner and then of course the dancing, everybody became aware there because the news kind of got spread, and partially by me. But I also, very early on into the dancing, ended up losing the sole on one of my shoes and was basically dancing barefoot. There was a shoe over it, and then the other shoe also lost its. I was lucky to get a ride home, actually, because anyway. Yeah, I'm having a hard time figuring out where to go. It's just, you know, coming back after really, it's been several days. It's Sunday now. Let's see. Thursday I played a little bit. Friday, Saturday, and now today. It's really tough to get back into. You know, this is a game that is still unfamiliar enough to me that and the types of decisions are not decisions that are easily internalized. So when I'm playing it straight through, I have an easier time remembering where I am and what I'm doing. But right now, yeah, I look at it and I'm like, oh, what the fuck? Plus, I'm early in the turn. I usually like to get a card done before I hit the weekend, and you know, to help direct what's happening. And I haven't done that. Yes, I picked these, and I picked my cards, but I have to completely reassess what the hell's going on. The key with the Turks is this card. I probably want to do, you know, let's see. Do I want 3 unrest and a declaration of war? Or do I want to end the Def Shirim where I lose a stability, which is fine. I'm set up to, but also lose tertios janissaries. And then it says, and gain another military idea. Well, okay. First step for this, there are no military ideas I could gain. So if I lost it, what would happen? I don't know. I'm tending towards the, because I want to bring more in, pull one out of the military ideas deck. These are all arrow 4. These would not be happening. They all look Napoleonic. Do I get to pick one? Or is it at random? I don't know. So the closest controlling thing here that I could find is if an event or a mission lets you research an idea not on display, you may still do so by taking one unresearched one, shuffling it in, then place your researched idea into the display grid. If there are no unresearched ideas of the same type on display, make space for a new row and add the new idea there. Sounds like it should be random. By the way, this card is one of the more painful events that happens in the old EU. The Turks are subject to a decline in that game. The Pasha system, I guess that's the definition. I gotta see it to pronounce it. The Devshirim. And I probably am not pronouncing it right anyway, so why bother? But so yeah, they suffer a number of things. Some of it being the fratricide in the Sultanate, you know, selection process, which was basically, you know, this sort of murder coups going on, and you know, whoever ascended would then kill off all their siblings and all their relations. And because it was a harem system, that made things complicated. So anyway, the Ottoman leadership declined tremendously And this is probably one of the better leaders. And in fact, Mustafa is a counter in that as a military leader, but he's also the Grand Vizier, which, you know, basically gives him good stats to help the Ottomans traverse this period. And you basically have a choice of using this good leader, Mustafa, and the built-up power that the Ottomans still have to be able to push and try to continue being a militarily functional great power. You're definitely in decline, but this might be kind of the last gasp to push things. At the same time, though, you could use that leader, because he's good enough to actually have a chance of doing this, to try to remove that Pasha system. This is a really risky move, which, you know, causes all kind of unrest, which is more what's shown here. Here, the cost seems to go towards the end, and although I hate losing the Janissaries, remember, they give me that extra, they give me an extra hit on these dice. I don't know what I'm going to get, and I don't want to suffer this unrest and everything. I like the idea of the free declaration of war, but am I really set for it? With a stability at -3, yes, some of my troops would get refreshed. Not a whole hell of a lot of cubes and everything. Probably not. So I'm going to go with the end of the Devshime. So I lose the stability, can't. I gain a military cube. I can do that. This would give me 2 cubes, which is the one advantage. If they have it, they lose Tertios Janissary and gain another military idea, and I'll randomly pull one. Well, I'm not sure I'm too happy. I was hoping for line infantry or something, you know, like that. But first of all, I get the advantage for getting this now. I'm the first person to get it. I assume I still get that. And I get an instant event of 2 military cards. But I gain 2 prestige each time I win a land battle where a PR enemy participated with 3 or more units. That's going to put me in a position where I'm more likely to be pursuing aims against Austria and or Poland. Now, control of the Danube is just sitting there, so that's definitely a positive. And I get a new ruler. Finally, drop some cash down, and we draw our new event, Diplomatic Crisis. We will not tolerate insults. Pick an opponent, if possible, one you are allied to. Cancel any alliance between you at no cost. They lose 3 prestige, gain a military, and must place a casus belli on your capital. You gain 2 prestige and a military. That's kind of nice. Don't trust them. Remove all cubes from one area, then add 2 of your own cubes there. Affected opponents must place a casus belli on your capital, and it comes with some piracy. What that was. It might be my heater, it might be my fridge. Either one makes weird noises at times. Okay, it's in a terrible position. Interregnum, very few cubes. Unrest everywhere. A couple of rebellions. Kalasmar pointed out, and yeah, this has to figure into my thinking at this point, and I often forget it. At the end of the turn, you're losing prestige for each area that's been conquered or is in rebellion, or that's occupied or in rebellion, which is, you know, one of those, hey, if I'm losing a war, I should settle it issues. But it's also, you really shouldn't leave yourself with rebelling forces. Now, some of it is, so here's the weird thing. Rebels, and over a 15-year period, I don't mind it the impact that much, but the weirdness still bothers me. In 15 years, an area that's not considered core to you, if it rebels during the turn, if it's rebelling during the turn, at the end of the, well, no, if it ever rebels, even at the moment. It just becomes not yours. You might have a claim. I'd have to look that up. I think you do, but you're not going to be in a position, where you own it anymore, where you have any right to go in there and take it other than by declaring war. If something is a core area, it can remain a rebel area for as long as you like. Yes, there's the penalty. It has very little impact on you. It reduces your income and your manpower, and your prestige regularly. But in terms of like, how functional are you? It is far worse to have unrest, because unrest can spread and cause problems, and it's just horrible. Whereas successful revolts, you can kind of ignore them. You really can. They aren't going to have additional impact on you. Yes, they're going to be a drain on your income and definitely on your victory point situation. And of course, one of the things that I have in this game is a hard time grasping winning, right? Maybe because I'm so used to the old EU, where it's like, look, as Spain or Portugal, I'm going to get like 2 to 3 times as many points as anybody else gets in the first age. It's just going to happen because of the exploration things. And if I'm Portugal, I'm going to get sunk, even if I'm, well in the lead, by Russia over eras, 3 through 6 or whatever, and I'm just going to be in the toilet, and I'm going to be in last place, no matter what I do. So, the fact that the other game didn't have, didn't feel like, say, a coin game or something else, or Here I Stand or something that's tightly balanced, and you really have to worry about the victory points all that much. And again, there's a lot of time, but that time's running out. I'm almost in the 4th deck. But at that point, you start looking at the people who are, way behind, the France, Spain, and England, and you're like, well, yeah, can I finish in the top of the 2nd tier? Can I come in 4th? Because it really is beginning to look that way for them. They have done poorly, and does it look like they have? It's so hard to tell. It's like. And again, I'm not convinced of the balance, right? Somebody like Austria has a lot of opportunities to get points. And you know what? I've been fucking up all game. Have I not? Maybe not, maybe not. I thought maybe there's always a negative if you're not in the power struggle, which would be even worse if you couldn't get there, right? Certain players have certain goals that are more important to them in that power struggle. So we look at the current one that's, waiting to happen. And players, if Castile, France, or England has no towns in fewer than 3 of Castile, North America's trade center area, then they are at a disadvantage. Oh, there's 2 more. They're going to have a hard time. France has a bonus. France comes in with towns in, it's Castile or adjacent to North America. So nobody's got anything in Castile. Okay. Nobody's got any towns there. So Spain, France, and England are all shit out of luck there, at least right now. So the focus becomes here in North America, and they're not really cutting it there either. So it looks to me like everybody's going to get the penalty for not playing that one out, if it falls soon. And I mean, France is in no position to pursue these goals, right? So that's kind of painful. Why do I have, oh, those are the effective areas. Yeah, and I've got one up there to remind me. Okay. But yeah, France's goals are, try to quell the unrest again, try to deal with that. I don't have very much. I have a couple of subjugate cards. I can probably fire off one of them if I need to. Maybe I take this. I don't know what else. And I look at the events. I'm like, well, cubes would be nice. This one gives me an admin cube. This one I can get a military cube from. The scientific revolution gives me an admin cube and, well, I've already got the revolution researched. So this would just give me a cube and a couple of bucks. I feel like there's enough options out there that are going to give me something that I don't really want to trigger it off. And the scientific revolution is especially bad because there's a lot of people at stability -3 who will gain my, my scientific revolution advance or idea. Oh, I don't know if I've mentioned this. This has been really bothering me. So like the Turks are tied to this Janissaries thing. And again, I've always looked at that and tercios. So the tercios were not a political factor. The Janissaries were. And that's why the card that the Turks just took is kind of important. And it's this weird distinguishment. It's like, okay, no one ever matched either of those specific things exactly. The match to both, I mean, the Janissaries were not like the tercios, right? The tercios was a specific tactical system. Janissaries are, an elite specialized force of regular, well, not even all that elite, but they were a regular army that Turkey actually had, and that they were able to create sort of this caste out of, and just, it was a very powerful part of their army that was more professional than what they were facing, especially in countries like Hungary or the Mamluks and even the Austrians, who were very reliant on mercenaries or levied forces at times. It was a major advantage for Turkey to have what was a professional army. Did other countries have professional armies? Yeah, they did. But they weren't as big. Is probably the biggest thing. The Spanish tercios was not just a professional army, but it was also a specific formation style. One which was incredibly effective for its time for a brief period. Maybe 30, 40 years, whatever. And it was countered not by, other people adopting the same formations. It was countered by different formations and tactical systems. And, basically it's the Dutch that break the tercios. And once it was able to be broken, kind of like the magic of, the Swiss pike formations when they first showed up, once you could start showing that they were vulnerable, they lost some of their mystique and they lost some of their power as well. As well as now there were tactics which countered them that were available and known to everyone. So it's almost like the Janissaries existed as something. So I mean, maybe the best word for this is you've got professional soldiers. Well, are the professional soldiers gone now? What's happened? Maybe that makes sense. Maybe that makes sense. Who are you drilling then if you don't have professional soldiers? I don't know. It's very hard to piece together what these ideas really mean and how they work. Anyway, I'm trying to work my way through the French, and what do? I don't think I want to do an event. Here I am eating up time again. The subjugation, is that big a thing? Maybe, maybe not. I almost feel like I have to do a reorg immediately to get cubes into military so I can start dealing with my unrest, which is really problematic. And everything else seems so minor compared to that. All right, let's do that. Because we can't move more than one cube, so if we get additional cubes somewhere else, they don't really help us there. I have a king for later if I need one. I don't want to put them until I see. I have 2 subjugates, too valuable to screw around with, so I'll move the boat up here. Doing a couple of turns after this far away, I'm exhausted, obviously. You're exhausted listening to me. So I'm going to pause for a bit. Okay, well, now it's like 11 hours later, 4 in the morning or whatever. And I'm going to finish up this round around, I guess. So little to do, but you know. All right, I look at Spain. Spain's a lot healthier than France in terms of the cube possessions because of Cromwell. Has a lot to do, but looking at the events that are out there, there's one that's appealing to me. Scientific revolution. I have shit stability. Sure, a lot of people have shit stability. But I'm going to draw new idea cards, and then I'm going to take the scientific revolution for free. It's not that big a bonus, but it gives me some things, right? First of all, if there's anybody who doesn't have 2 ideas researched, and I think everybody does, Austria doesn't. They get shunted out. So there's one with -3 stability who can't take it. Secondly, I get 2 prestige. And, you know, a couple of bucks. Is it the best thing that I can take? Well, it's the best thing out here. There's 3 mystery cards, though. But I don't know about them yet. So I'm going to deal out some additional, only 2 additional because you fill in a row. You don't automatically put one of each in there. So that new military, that's all we're getting unless something else comes up. Okay, well, we didn't get the most interesting draws in the world. We got the Inquisition back, which could be very helpful, right? The Convert Area and Man of the Church both cost 1 admin and 1 buck less, the admin being the big one. The other one is Pride and Glory. You can place a claim per diplomacy spent during Fabricate Claims action. I always thought it was Fabricate 1 claim, but apparently no. However, I don't think anybody's ever wanted to put 2, but reducing the cost would be nice. Now, I don't get either of these, but I am going to be getting the Scientific Revolution. And that gives me 2. It didn't exempt France, so France gets 1, and we both go forward. It also is going to give me an admin cube, if I recall correctly, which is good. And then lucky I had one. Jeez, that could be dangerous. And now we go through everyone else, and most of the people are going to take, probably this changes everything. Well, at least one person may, because they'll get a couple of points off of it. Others may choose not to follow that, because a stability point could be more valuable. It worked out to be a pretty good card for everyone. Well, except Austria. We'll talk about that in a moment. So Spain went with it, took their points, gave a point to Turkey, fine. England also went with it, gave a point to both Turkey, or to both, I'm sorry, Spain and France. Spain gave one to France. England gives one to Spain and France. But each of these players is getting 2 points. Austria can't play. They don't have enough technology or ideas, so they take a stability. Poland doesn't want to give up stability. So, and the scientific, you know, it's basically giving up a stability for a couple of prestige. And I just didn't want to do it. Gaining it's actually 2 points because I was, you know, not at the bottom. Turkey chose to go for it, took their 2 points. They don't pay anything to anyone. France, of course, because they already have the scientific revolution, declare that it's heresy. Whatever. The other thing here is that a cardinal dies, and because Spain picked this, they get to choose who, and now they are solely in charge, which is worth a fair number of points. Well, what's next? We put a couple of bucks on each of these, and we draw one more. The Glorious Revolution. Invite a foreign monarch. Now, this one is linked to England. It's not like the Cromwell one. England gains an alliance with an NPR of matching faith. You gain a military, or support the Stuarts. England rejects William III and may appoint a ruler from their hand. Well, what if I don't want to? England gains, I mean, if I have Cromwell, I sure the hell don't want to. England gains an alliance with a Catholic NPR, and if Protestant, loses to stability. Ew. Add unrest to 2 English towns in Protestant areas. Okay. The English definitely have to grab this. Well, except maybe nobody cares, right? But there's the danger that someone, well, no one's going to do this except to gain the military cube, probably. With England in last place, although Turkey's looking like they're catching up on them, it's probably safe to leave alone. Shit. I'm worried that I did not cover everyone. Well, specifically, I'm worried I did not cover England's beginning of the turn sequence. That looks pretty obvious. They have no cards. They have only one mission in place. The Poles only have one mission in place. I fucking did something up. Ah, God damn it. So, I'm pretty sure, I don't know. I may have only done the Turks and given up. Maybe that's where my vote was that I did, I have no fucking clue. Yeah, I may not have drawn. Fuck. Fortunately, this, I probably moved something. But, if I was positioned here, I didn't, I thought I always draw the fucking cards. Son of a bitch. The problem is, at this hour, at this time, I'm not capable of doing that. And so if I did not go ahead and do that, I fucked up royally. And I mean, it's pretty obvious that I didn't. And I'm just giving up for the night. Maybe tomorrow I'll be able to figure things out more, but I'm so fucking busy doing shit for Raid. Like, I'm constantly doing shit, and it's all pretty quick. I did try to come up when I was able to, earlier, but yeah, and other stuff that, like, I'm just online, fucking around and whatever, but that's all I wanted to do today. So I think the only reasonable solution I can take at this point is to post facto go back and redo those do those selections of cards, ignoring the fact that I've already played 3 players, done some events and whatnot, because honestly, a full rewind would be a lot more work, and I'd either have to randomize the event deck again, remember the 3 that were face up, because those were known, and probably be making the same decisions. So obviously the narrative, this should be inserted before, but we don't do editing or anything like that. We're giving you the play experience, and sometimes you just have to fucking correct things, right? Sometimes people forget what they're doing, and even in a group play, which is probably less broken than the way I do it in terms of keeping what's going on. Turkey holds the same cards. They look at these. This is what they drew. Subjugate, have to keep. Have to keep it. Commercial growth, pretty nice. Did I want another royal in hand with a royal marriage? You know, that could help conceivably with the subjugate, but I'm going to pitch that because I don't know why. Why? I'm going to use some cards. I'm not only going to have to pay once. Yeah, might as well hold it. I got tons of, I got money. What the fuck? Yeah, so, you know, the whole nature of like holding cards and not has changed over the course of the game. At the beginning, I thought, oh, holding cards is great. And then everybody ran out of money. So then everybody kind of decided holding cards was not great. And then I found out I was playing the rules wrong in terms of you only have to pay for the cards that you're taking. Now, if you have more than 5 cards in your hand at any time, and this guy has 6, you're in danger at the end of the turn of having to discard some. So it's not worth paying for cards if you're just going to be holding them. But I'm pretty certain I'm playing at least one of those. I will certainly play at least one of those just to avoid having to discard. A weird little thing came to my mind having to do with, this is just totally at random, but I just noticed, you know, my tables aren't quite the same height, and we got this kind of crack there, etc. This doesn't happen with paper maps unless you're stupid enough to, you know, put the paper map and line it up right with the tables, which I did, I think, with, I don't remember my big, my big Leipzig game. I think I did that. I remember there being kind of little slits there. But, you know, with a paper map, you can set it up, maybe with a piece of tape or whatever, so that it kind of bends nicely. It won't happen. Hard maps don't work that way, right? I mean, it depends on the map. But here you've got the kind of modern fold-up map that is much better than, but reminds me of the old AH single-piece fold maps. You know, something like a Monopoly map where they've got some stitching or something between where the crease is. Overall, these maps are a lot better. These are really good maps, but it is one thing to think about is when you're looking at larger and larger boards, actually hard boards are more likely to cause something like that, which I really don't like. It's obnoxious, you know. I kind of don't see it when I'm over here on this side. Of course, with a real war game, you know, with lots of chits on it and whatever, it's worse because they can slip under. There's not much here that's going to slip under that. Also keeping their same goals mainly because they can't do shit. I mean, their country is in hell. Country in hell means it's time to draw administrative cards, and although I have a couple of good cards I need to hold, I'm going to keep 2 of these. Man of the Church allows me to convert an area. Has to be one of my own. It's a little iffy, actually. But it gives me a ruler. Whoa. But so does this. I don't have a king. Is Man of the Church worth it? An area where you own all the provinces. I don't think there's anything like that I want to do. So actually I'm going to keep this revolutionary idea for the better king. More importantly, though, is the central authority, which allows me to increase stability a little cheaper. Seems worth it. For Spain, as counter-reform, yeah, defending the Catholic faith would look really good. I'm pretty close. State religion is counter-reformed on 4 more provinces in Netherlands, Flanders, and Wallonia. I'm there, barely. Or Burgundy. It's own, so for Burgundy I would have to I would have to subjugate them. All of your areas in 3 or more Catholic elector areas are Catholic, or 3 or more HRE elector areas. Well, that's not so close. But I can't take this because I need either 2D or 3A, neither of which I have. So I'm fucked. So I'll just keep the same shit. This card pick was a little harder. I have plenty of money. I'm not worried about that. Plenty of cubes too. But I don't think there's a lot I want to do with cards. I probably should have pulled a diplomacy just because I have diplomacy cubes and not a lot to do with diplomacy right now. I don't know. Establish some claims or something, I guess. So this was kind of dumb. But the first 2 cards I drew was to get a military advisor. I don't have one. I assume I don't have one in hand. No, I got a whole bunch of rulers. So that was my first goal, and I don't really care about this, do I? I mean, it would be useful, but yeah, I don't really. Although a general could be nice. I might need one, but I have generals. And I don't need anything that well. This is pretty specific. Leopold Wilhelm. What about this? A lot of colonial cubes. That can be really useful. So I'm going to keep that. Because for a cheap price, I can get, well, essentially for 1 admin cube, I can get 2 colonials right now, but maybe I can get more at some other point, or maybe I play it. So those are the 2 I'll keep. This one I throw. I discovered I cheated with the English. I had this Church of England that I scored. I can't go back and fix it. I didn't get 2A yet. 2A is dominate the British Isles. I'm aiming for it, so maybe it's not that horrible, but I'm not aiming too hard because I don't have it yet. This is a problem with these card functions. Yeah, they're readable and whatnot, and maybe if I wasn't paying attention to so many countries at the same time, I could do this more easily. Or once I get more used to seeing this and thinking in the way that these align. I don't know what you can say, you know, to express this kind of prerequisite type mechanism. You know, I guess you could probably do it with some sort of graph or something, but it would be, I can't think of an easy way to express this kind of thing. And the cards are probably about as good as you can get in terms of, you know, it's playable and whatnot. It's just, yeah, gonna fuck up, man, gonna fuck up. One of the problems is I had this present before, wasn't able to meet it because of the revolts. But then I was like, oh, and just swapped it out without thinking and without looking. And it's just so easy to make that kind of mistake. And here's the thing. Playing solo, fine, you know, I make that kind of mistake. I blame myself, there's no one else to blame. If you're sitting at a table in an opposed game, if it's a competitive game at all, it really sucks because you're not going to be able to pay attention to what everybody else is doing. People are going to run into these cases where they've inadvertently cheated. I've been in that position. I've been in that position where someone else does. It's much worse when I do it. Because, you know, if someone else does, you can just kind of wave your hand and say, it doesn't have much effect or whatever. But if you do it, especially if you're the person who brought the game, you know, and taught it and everything, oh boy, you know, you feel like, you know, you're sitting there and you're like, I cheated. Now, usually when someone else does it, they don't notice that they cheated. So it's kind of, I don't know if it's worse or better, but I feel more guilty. Well, I don't know. I think I feel more guilty if I'm the one who catches it. But in truth, no one else is likely to catch it. And that's kind of problematic. And there are a lot of games that are that way. And then, of course, you know, there's the possibility of someone who's truly, you know, malicious or whatever, I don't know what to call it, who's actively cheating and uses the fact that nobody's going to see what you're doing and whatnot. We ran into that in in a game of Whiff once. It's really a shame because the guy liked heavy games, seemed really excited about it and all, but he was also very competitive. And this is one of my disagreements with very competitive players, is that that kind of competition can lead to kind of cheating. Obviously, I would say 80 to 90% of people who are that competitive are not going to cheat, but you see it in, like, you know, the high levels of Magic the Gathering and everything. People are fucking, you know, there's money at stake. It's like the fishing competition, right? Go back, what, a few months? I don't know. It's on my mind, whatever. But yeah, you know, and there are not nice people. There are people who, I mean, it's not that they're not nice. They can be great people. This guy was a really nice guy in a lot of ways. I used to have a guy in my role-playing game that we loved. I mean, we really did. Who would consistently cheat. It just became kind of a joke. And then I sort of started playing into that and, you know, cheating against him as the GM or whatever. You know? Or never giving him the benefit of the doubt, which sometimes I would, you know, fudge a roll in somebody's favor or something, because I just feel like that's important as the storyteller to arrange, but as a player, you shouldn't really be able to keep yourself alive, you know, in the same way. So I would have horrible things happen to him, and I was kind of like, yeah, well, you know, with the luck he has, we have to reverse that somehow. The English were drawing for a king because they didn't have a ruler. Now, I know William III is up there, but he wasn't up there when they were making this decision. So I drew a couple of militaries. I drew this commercial growth. I'm going to keep that. But I'm low on money. I have a military advisor. Was he due to die? I don't know. Let's see if anything with money on it has him dying. Nah. So I'm just going to hold on to the one card for that. And yeah, I'm being real chatty right now, not just, I'm explaining game actions more clearly. In part because when I fuck up, it kind of means that I'm not paying enough attention, and maybe I need to capture things. I'm also, you know, I'm a lonely guy, right? You know, and this is the only conversation I get, and it's been, you know, since Friday. It's Monday now. It's been a few days. I haven't talked to a human in a while. And yeah, you know, and I haven't done a lot of videos, so I'm a little bit more, at the very least, I'm not really sharing my personal woes right now. I've kind of just saying screw 'em, you know, let life fucking fuck me over in a few months or whatever, if that's what it comes to. I might not be here in that much time. I might. But the misery of, you know, worrying about things that I should be able to change, but I just, you know the old proverb, here I go, right? You know, the prayer, give us strength for what we can change, and I don't remember what else, for what we cannot. Well, yeah. I take a very stoic view of that, an ultra stoic, which is kind of, and fatalistic, which is kind of like, you know, when it comes down to it, I can't change anything. So the question is, do I want to suffer, or do I just want to not? And, you know, sometimes I can. Sometimes I spent, you know, a couple of decades working pretty fucking hard to overcome this nature. I'm still like, you know, maybe 20% of what a normal human can be for these kind of things, I guess. But I don't know. I learned this when I was in my first undergrad degree, and yeah, I fucked it up completely. I fucked my whole life up at that point, basically. It seemed like, Was I happier? Yeah, at times. At times I was more miserable, perhaps. At least, when I'm living off packets of ketchup or something, that's not so hot. But whatever. When I came up here and started playing the actual action rounds out of turn, my first thought was, wow, I feel like I'm starting to turn over again, right? I should have realized that as a clue, but it's hard to do. Anyway, with the Austrians, I'm looking at them. I'm not sure about the two that I have there, but restore religious unity is an intriguing one. I don't know if I meet it, though. State religion is counter-reformed, yes. There are 4 more Catholic areas. Catholic elector areas. Yeah, all right, what are the fucking electors? No list again. Brandenburg's one, it's Catholic. Saxony is one, it's Protestant, not good. I don't remember how many there are. I think there's actually 5. Bohemia was one, it's not anymore. So I've only got 4, which means they all have to be Catholic. Am I going to be able to meet this? Westphalia is one. The Rhineland is one. Is that all of them? Sounds like it. Brandenburg, Saxony, Westphalia, and the Rhineland. So that's 4. There is one that I would have to convert over to make this work. Okay. That's possible. I might be able to claim this mid-turn if there aren't any markers moving around, whatever. The Counter-Reformation might be able to help me, but it doesn't look like it's close enough anywhere. Like, the only one I have is here, which is, I think, Austria, because there's a lot of marriages and stuff there. What else do I need? And maximum of 3 elector areas are owned by non-Catholic opponents. Well, actually, that's 0. You could say, well, maybe Bohemia is. It's not an electorate anymore. It's not part of the empire, can't count. So this is actually a pretty unlikely thing. And what do they say? Maximum of 3 towns in elector areas. Yeah. And so far, there's basically none. So that's actually maybe within reach. Is one of these not? Owner vassalized 2 or more of Brescia, Franche-Comté, Namur, and Luxembourg or Holstein. Oh, God, I fucking hate this. This is just so hard, finding the things. Brescia is down there. Franche-Comté, there's something going on there. I vassalized Geneva. Okay. So that's 2 that I don't have. Namur, Luxembourg, and Holstein. Holstein is there. Namur is over here under Spanish control, and Luxembourg's under French control. This is going to be really hard for me to do. How about the Iron Crown? Owner vassalized 5 or more provinces of Lombardy, Central Italy, or Naples. I have 2 in Lombardy and 1 in Central Italy. Oh, that might be easier. See, here's the thing. I need 2. Brescia could be one of those, but Brescia is complicated because it's fucking Venice. I thought these 2 would kind of overlap more than they do. So I'm going to get rid of Defend the Empire, which unfortunately is probably better. How about Restore Religious? I can do this. This is 1C, but I've done 1A, so I'm able to do this. I'll put this. I don't think I can get it. Like, a lot of my stuff, like the Burgundian Alliance kind of works in with some of that. A lot of my stuff kind of combines and connects, and since I haven't really succeeded at some of those early missions, these later missions are not really accessible in a lot of ways. I don't know. All right, cards, I don't know. Not a lot of cubes there. Not a tiny amount, but drew 2 admin and a dip. I have a Royal Marriage in here, which gives me a good advisor. I wonder why I haven't played him. Maybe somebody died. New alliance. I don't have any alliances available. I have someone. Is that what this is? No, this is royal marriage. Alliances can be helpful because they can lead to subjugation, but I'm not really getting that. Man of the Church, I think I am going to keep. I don't have a whole lot of money. But the reason for that is I can convert one of my areas, especially one of my Protestant areas, if I have any. Not this, because I don't own everything in there. That's kind of the tricky part. If that would be the one I want to do. So if I took Nuremberg, I would actually be able to satisfy my requirements. So yeah, I'm going to keep that. Harbor refugees. I don't have a king available, but I think I'm going to ditch this because I don't think either of these does me any good. Why this card's kicking around? I can't justify anything about it. I'm just going to pitch it. Maybe it was a military leader for a rebel or something. Let's take a look at the polls, I guess. Okay. The Polish Navy, on 2 or more ports, I do, and 4 or more light ships. I can do that. Dominate the Baltic. Own 4 or more provinces in Livonia and Estonia. I got that. Or Pomerania. I don't got that, but I got the one. And I could expand the Baltic Sea or Lubeck. I got that. Sounds good. Break the Rus, I don't think I can do in this game. Revenge for Varna requires me to go to attack the Turks. Black Sea port similarly. Vasa, that's going to get me into Sweden. Might be my next follow-up. And likewise, owner vassalize 3 or more provinces adjacent to Saxony. Ooh, I have this. Unfortunately, I don't have 3B yet, so I can't even select this. But that's kind of sweet. Owning Bohemia did me a lot there. Because I have plenty of money, I may want to hold everything. I drew 2 military because I'm looking for a military advisor. Hey, I got one, good enough. And then I switched over to an admin. Definitely want to keep that. Question is, do I keep this tactical retreat with a leader on it? There's a leader available there who's, I think, a little better. Or no worse. This was already up there. Yeah, he's definitely better. I don't think I'm going to keep this. Although it might be helpful. And it would also be a possible military leader. And I have 2 armies on the board. Not a great military leader anywhere. Interesting question. Do I want an army? Do I need one? The current goals are out of my reach in terms of the War of Spanish Succession. They really are far from me. Holding a card can be useful, but I don't have a lot of military cubes, so I'm just going to hold the 2. It's kind of a hard decision, right? You know, do I hold a card that does me very little good? I can't conceive of what it would get, I can think of circumstances, I can, where maybe it would be helpful, or spend money that I have more than enough of. You know, which of these 2 kind of edge case things is more valuable? I just sort of tend towards the, if I don't need it, I don't need it, fuck it. But that may not be the best way to think. In terms of resources, the money's probably easier for me to get a hold of, but it might not always be. Horrible things could happen. I could end up in a big war or something. So who knows? Maybe that $2 is really important. I do have to build some ships. So that brings me to where I left off, which is on the English turn. Unfortunately, I'm in no condition right now to be doing this. for various reasons. And so I'm going to break for a little bit. Get in a position where I probably want to build some armies and fight in Ireland. But I do a trade action and I get a screwy pull again, only $2. And honestly, with the piracy in North America, now one of the cards was North America, but I wouldn't have been able to do it because you have to own one of 2 provinces that I didn't have to be able to do it at all. But yeah, it feels like it would be very difficult for me to get a good trade result. North Sea is the only good one. I maybe have to start patrolling the piracy. There's piracy here, English Channel, Bordeaux, North America has 2. Piracy is really spreading. And the thing is, most countries don't really care that much about it. They're willing to, unlike in the EUs that I'm used to, both the original board game and the computer game this is based on, piracy tends to be something everybody gives a shit about. And they don't want it happening in their trade zones because their trade zones generate income for them all the time. They don't have to spend a cube or whatever this represents to get that income. And there's one country that's very dependent on trade in this, which is the English. Things you can't do when you're at war, notably create claims. I don't know if I have claims left. Doesn't look like it. So I don't know how big a deal that is. But notably, I don't have a claim here. This is the place I would like to take. So I got to think about that a little bit. But right now, I think the most important thing, and I like to do the most important thing and then think about other things, is to clean up my 2 unrest and worry about everything else afterwards. You know, it's sort of a, hey, if I can't get this underway, first of all, there are cards that can fuck with me if I'm in unrest. And secondly, you know, did I even pull diplomacy cards? I don't know if I pulled diplomacy cards to try to, you know, absorb Hungary or anything like that. I'm focused. It's so hard to keep your focus on like, well, do I really want to absorb that? Yeah, I probably do. But for that is a form of opportunism, right? Normally I look at opportunism as, oh, I'm gaining this. But honestly, when I'm like trying to cure unrest or something, what I'm doing is a sort of an opportunism of, well, this is the best thing I can do at the moment. And I'm just trying to hold my realm together. That feels a lot like Empires of the Middle Ages. And that's a feeling I like. I like opportunism where you're heading into the shitter if you don't do certain things, and you got to be careful. And learning just how bad the shitter is, Spain and France have had to deal with this, where they tried to pursue other things and maybe, you know, ignored either financial or unrest situations. Now, one of the problems is I've been low on cubes. That's my own fault, the way I've been playing, rather than anything else. So it's been very hard to keep countries together and do something at the same time. By the way, I don't know if you can see, if things are too dirty in my window. I have to keep it dirty or the birds slam into it. But yeah, that, I don't know, it's just something nice about my view here. One more thing with Austria before I move to the polls. I was about to start them. I'm aiming for this restore religious unity. Now, to do this, I have to figure out some way to get Saxony Catholic or counter-reform. But the win effects of this, other than the 5 prestige, increase the imperial power by 1, or change an HRE area's religion to counter-ref. Oh, I thought it was the state religion, and I'm like, I'm not sure that means anything. No. Okay, so that's kind of sweet. Unfortunately, this, just being able to do this at random, you know, to any location, that would be really cool. That would get me there, right? But I gotta change Saxony first. Poland, and they could have done this earlier, but not while they were picking it, is gonna fire off their dominate the Baltic. That gets them 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I haven't decided what they're doing. They can pay to expand the Baltic Sea or the Lubeck trade zone. These are not really goals that I have. Like, I don't really need money. Do I want to do this? I don't know. It's only a cube, but I don't have that many. But yeah, and I'm going to do it in the Baltic because that's the furthest from everyone else. Let's make that rich. You know, only I'll gain. I still don't know what I'm going to do in terms of, and this is a 3, Jesus. How did we get so far with Poland? I wonder if I could do it. Yep, 2A and 2B. Or 2A or 2B. Like I'm aiming towards maybe this. This gains me a claim adjacent to a sea zone that any of your ports face in. That would aim me towards maybe the Swedish goal, which I could play on, which would be very pleasant. But is that what I want to do right now? Well, let's look first. No, I got 1 unrest. Fuck it. Let's clean up that unrest. Oh, that's my only military power. Fuck. Okay. I may need to reorganize to be able to build my fleet, but I think, again, getting rid of unrest is important, and I want to take that into consideration. And that moves me back around. The game is in a state that I can cope with, that I can leave the table and feel kind of comfortable. I know I'm in the action rounds, and, you know, I've got things at the beginning of a player turn, of a sequence and everything, and I'm much, much happier. Yes, I had to do some weird reverse dancing to get the game into this state, but I don't think I made decisions that I don't think I hurt the game too much. Like, I think some of my other mistakes were worse. This one was just painful to recuperate from. The Turkish turn, they spend their cubes, get rid of as much unrest as they can. I don't really have anything that's going to help me more than that in my hand. Got the subjugate. Subjugate's interesting. If I could get it on the vassal state. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, 3. Sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 9. I would need a whole lot of diplomatic cubes. I don't have that many. I was also looking at the possibility of creating an alliance here. But again, I just don't have the cubes for it. So, you know, I'll play out what I can, but it's hard. It's really hard. And I don't want to shift around and expend cubes on that if I've got good things that I can do with all my cubes. The military, I could restore unrest. The administrative, I have some stuff to do. The diplomacy, I may just throw a couple of cubes into somewhere. I need 2 in here in order to get a marriage. Of course, so the royal sorry, not a marriage, an alliance. The alliance card gives you the 2 cubes plus the alliance, whereas here you need 2 cubes and then you have to pay half the tax income. That would be another 2 cubes. This other card is more useful if you want to take over an alliance, if you want to replace an alliance, but yeah. Those 3 military cubes in, they're going to recover some of their unrests. Again, you know, this is always a hard call. Do you deal with the unrest, or do you deal with the revolts that are in place? Like I said, the victory points come off, the prestige points come off for the revolts, but unrest can just send you in a downward spiral. I feel like I have to get the unrest under control. was vaguely tempted with the French afterwards, looking at the diplomatic crisis using this. It would get me the 2 prestige that I'm losing. It would get me a military cube, which I can use to restore things. And what else? I wasn't sure that the French hadn't played. I knew some people have. I could create a casus belli. I don't have any alliances, so I could create a casus belli with somebody stupid like Poland who isn't going to be able to do anything. There are problems to that, though. There may be a penalty to... No, there's no penalty to not exercising just a random casus belli. You can let those pass. And I could actually give a bonus to the Poles for that. Or I could pick somebody who isn't doing very well in the game, like England, who could go to war with me. That would be a little bit more dangerous, but whoever I'm doing it with, I give them a cube, which is kind of, do I really want to do that with somebody who's ahead of me in victory points or significantly ahead? Yeah, probably, because I'm probably playing for 4th. It's the same. They blow their wad on their unrest. Got rid of all of it. But, well, hold on. This is easier to cope with, although I don't have an army down here anymore, than this. So I'll fix that one. But yeah, getting rid of the unrest, again, it seems more important than that victory point there. Decide they can go with a cheaper route. Things are a little iffy. I've got 2 unrests. I can cope with 1 probably. I don't have a huge unrest problem in my hands. So I spent a cube, built myself an army. Do I want to build a fleet too? Fleets are always a good idea. Just a small fleet. Is there anything I need for that? Got the Settle in America, which I'm probably not going to do because I've got other things to do, but I could actually trigger that. And that might be useful. Yeah, that's kind of beside the point here. I think building another merchant fleet is not or another light fleet is not a bad idea. I have the cash to do it, barely. I'm just so low on cash. No, I better not. But this only cost me a couple bucks to build. It's going to take a cube to siege it, and then I have 1 cube left to take to cure the unrest. It's so damn close to this, and I can do it. 4 more Catholic elector areas. There are not quite. Yeah. Okay, so I think I know how I can do this. I don't have to change the religion. I have to... Yeah, I do have to change the religion. I have to do a number of things. But the first of those is to form a claim. Well, I have a lot of claims on the board. All over the fucking place. I'm going to take the Hungarian claim because I think both of these are of interest. Although I could declare war on Turkey on just that one, I might want to be declaring war on both Turkey and on Venice, conceivably. I can't think of any reason I'd want to go to war with Hungary particularly. And I'm going to drop this sucker in here in Saxony. That gives me a chance to go take Nuremberg, which will then allow me to seize it. Now, if I recall correctly, the only time I'm in trouble, the only time I cause problems, and let me just double check this in the HRE, is if I go to war without a claim or without a casus belli, which... why would you do this? Yeah, if they do not have a casus belli against one of their imperial subjects. Well, a claim is a casus belli, so I fabricate a claim to Nuremberg, and boom, everything is hunky-dory. I play the man of the church. It sucks to let someone have absolute control of the papacy, but that's not as important to me as changing... Oh, fuck, I don't own Dresden anymore? Seriously? Oops. Yeah, shit. I thought I owned Dresden. Wow. I mean, I did. I apparently don't anymore. Doing all of this. All right. I want to get rid of some of the religious problems. I'm going to change that to counter-reformed because I am counter-reformed. That creates another little bubble of counter-reformation. There is some danger that that could go Protestant, but hey. Turkey was really considering playing this commercial growth, growing a town to a city, get a little bit more income, another buck a turn or whatever. But you know, I got enough money. Screw that, man. So I spent 2 cubes. Minus 3 is 5, which is what I need to increase my stability a point. That gets me a cube, which I think is worth more than a buck. I still have the card. Yes, I have 6 cards, but one of them is going in here. France has a very powerful card. Change an area's religion to match your state religion. Not one of your areas, nothing like that. It only cost me 1 admin to do this. Anywhere. Well, right now I'm threatened by some counter-reformation there. I could screw around with Spain's, which might be worthwhile, but I'm counting on that kind of balancing out. So I'm gonna convert this to Protestant. Protestant Northern Italy. I mean, Switzerland went Protestant, so why not? You know? Although one could look at the socioeconomic factors which determined which areas went Protestant and which didn't. You could look at it in one of 2 ways. Did Protestantism break the hold of the church and make those areas more prosperous, more mercantile? Or, and I think the evidence shows this much better, did the more prosperous areas that were developing a middle class, and North Italy was prosperous and had a middle class, so it shouldn't have been immune. Is that what drove the changes? Now, I think it's more likely, again, that it was the prosperity to begin with. So areas that really did became Protestant. And you can take a look at a couple of them. So in France, the Huguenots were centered around where trade happened. In England, I'm not so sure. I think it was kind of widespread, the initial factors. But England was an interesting country in a lot of ways. There were already more rights than most of the other medieval era places had. Spain did not really suffer Protestantism at all, but you could say that's the Inquisition, you know. But it's not just. Spain had a very agricultural and actually pastoral society for the most part. Although major cities were hotspots of diverse religions, especially where the Moors and the Jews were heavily concentrated, but that wasn't really fertile for Protestantism even. The Netherlands certainly was heavily infiltrated by Protestant thought. And that includes what is seen as more Catholic areas, you know, what is Belgium now, Wallonia, Flanders. That was a very rich area in both places. Germany, in general, northern Germany, where trade was heavier, you had more Protestantism show up. The real question in the game's terms is, hey, Switzerland went Protestant. Switzerland's a hard call on this whole thing because Switzerland was not, you know, the banking giant that it is today or anything like that, or that it's been for, you know, a century or 2. Rather, it was kind of the odd man out here. It was largely pastoral, and I don't really have a good argument either way for that. And you had enclaves of Protestantism showing up in the South as well, in South Germany, etc. However, South Germany generally ended up going Catholic, and then as you know, as we went through the periods in this game that we already have, that was pretty much wiped out. Poland obviously was very agricultural. Italy, interesting question, because, yeah, you know, even with Switzerland, that Protestantism didn't seem to be infectious into nearby areas. If anything, Calvinism went from Switzerland and jumped into the Netherlands more than anything else. So it's hard. It's hard to look at the model that the game has and say it's right, but it's probably much harder to come up with a model that works better. You know? So it's kind of an interesting one. Maybe the Here I Stand model works better. I don't know. That one actually has reformers moving around doing stuff, but they're doing stuff at the direction of players. And to some extent, this is happening at the direction of players. Anyway, on to Spain, as I, you know, wander off into historical meanderings. That same capability, and I look desperately, hey, is there something I really need to play? I have my 5 cards. I'm safe. I think I want to play around with these. My problem is I can't just like fight the French over here or something. I've got to deal with problems in my own area. And so I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to do it over here where Madrid is. Now I have to get a Protestant marker for that, because that's a diverse faiths. A Counter-Reformation counter. They're on the same counter, they're just different sides. This is kind of interesting. I'm running low on various counters. These Protestant counter-reforms are backsiding each other. Again, one of my solutions might be to use just Catholic markers, but that won't show the infectiousness easily. Another possibility is to use something completely different, but that also won't blend in quite as well. Of course, the Counter-Reformation looks so close to the Catholic that, I don't know. I feel like England's playing with fire, leaving this card out there. Some chance that somebody late in the game will choose to do something else. So I'm going to take this. Invites a foreign monarch. I don't get much out of it. I get an alliance with a matching faith. I'm going to take that alliance with Scotland, because if I get a subjugation, I can do good things with that. And as the player, I gain a military cube, which will be useful. I have a military endeavor to undergo. And that's it. I get William. Yay. However, I already dropped the coins on, but we have another event shop. Noble revolt in Hungary. They should learn their... This gives me Leopold I of Austria. Austria has a ruler, not quite as good, but close. Marguerite, she has a 3 in diplomacy. They should learn their places. Add 4 unrest to any non-Hungarian towns in Royal Hungary. There aren't any. Hungary's a vassal still. Lucky me. Hungarian Plain or Transylvania. This is harder to judge. What is Transylvania? It is a separate vassal, but it is Hungary. So I'm going to say that that's not impacted either. And 4 rebels in 1 affected area, you gain 2 military. Okay, that's not bad. Give concessions. If Austria owns provinces in any of Royal Hungary, Hungarian Plains, or Transylvania, they lose 1 admin, 1 peace, and 2 military. Wouldn't be a big deal if this stays around out there for a while. Doesn't feel like it's going to have much effect, but if I need a couple military cubes, which maybe I do, it might not be a bad choice to pick it up. First thing, are there any pluses dying out there? That's of some interest. There are no deaths at all out there. So I could grab 2 military cubes by taking that. Alternative choices are all weaker. This one, I may place a claim next to Poland. Huh. Geez. That would have gotten me the Saxon claim for free. Could have just played this. That's not, Poland may place one. Interesting. What else might I want to do before I start my war? I have a Man of the Church. I can't play that yet. I have a Royal Marriage, which requires peace. No. I could just grab a marriage somewhere. It's a cheap marriage, right? Or is this the only way to get marriage? This is the only way to get marriage. I am always getting confused by that. The reason is because royal marriage is far, far lower in the old EU on the linear track than alliance. Basically, you have to pass through royal marriage to get anything else. It's, I think, the first box. And the only real limitation is if you're the wrong, wrong religions or something, or otherwise prohibited from marrying, you just can't be in that box. You can pass it. So Turkey can make an alliance with, I don't know, Poland. It's not very likely, but they can, technically. Okay. So I don't have any marriage things, so I don't want to do that. I think I'm probably holding that as an advisor. Yep. Is there anything else I want to do? I'm low on money. Trade might not be a bad idea before I start things. Good thing there are no land pirates. Austria got a lucky card. They got the Vienna card. Now, I look at this. Vienna, yeah, I hold that. Salzburg, I was able to find. Pest, I know, is over in Hungary, so it doesn't count for my trade. Salzburg is here. The hard one for me to find was Regensburg. That happens to be up here in Bavaria. So it doesn't count. It's hard to see because the board is separated there. It's particularly hard. It's hard to see anything in kind of the middle of the map. So that gives me a total of 2 plus 1 for the merchant is 3. It's an expanded trade zone, so I get $8. That's a pretty good deal. I'm pretty damn glad I did it. Time to wander down another historical pathway. Here we're looking at Poland, who should have the little boat, but it just doesn't sail right now. Poland's looking at doing the Polish Navy. I'm going to have to do a reorg. That's what I'm going to do. And we can just do it. Now, obviously, I would like to integrate all this, but I don't want to throw a whole shitload of diplomatic cubes in there. Actually, no, that was not what I was going to do. Give me that back. What I'm going to do is set myself up for a later card that I'm not going to get to play right now. Now, the next card that I have is the Black Sea ports. I want to play this, but I can't do it yet. I match this 4 more ports facing the Black Sea. I've set myself up for that. I just couldn't take it, I think. I'm not sure. I'm not sure this is going to give it to me. I'm not sure why I couldn't take it. I'm not sure what I did take. I'm going to ignore that. Maybe I should have it and I just fucking forgot, even though I went around again. But the House of Vasa, I think that's the case. Let me just look at what Poland... Did Poland do one? Poland had dominate the Baltic, right? Owner vassalized for... No, I had this. Yeah, and that's, I think... I don't know what that is. That's 3B. 3B is 2A, 3D. Those are gone. I've done them. Yeah, so the Black Sea ports will be available to me next turn. But equally important, and maybe I could do both in the same turn, is the House of Vasa, which is owner vassalized 4 more provinces in Svealand, Gotland, and Skane, or Finland. Svealand here, Finland obviously, Gotland and Skane down here, currently split between Denmark and Sweden. Now, here's the thing. The House of Vasa had a claim to and actually held this Polish throne briefly. This is why this is weird. That's a Polish goal. Kind of want to look at the goal for Sweden. I may dig them out, because to me the idea of Poland owning Sweden under this House of Vasa thing, I can see some arguments for it, but basically the Poles basically the Poles didn't accept Sweden being their overlord, and I think there was one Swedish king who was ruling in Poland. But what this is doing is kind of the opposite. It's not that Sweden has to impose its will on Poland. It's like Poland has to go conquer part of Sweden, which feels weird. Something interesting I think Kalasmar again pointed out is that Denmark and Sweden share a mission deck. And then I'm left with, wait a minute. There's all these generic missions. What are they for? I don't know the answer to that. My guess is, and I could find out from the scenario book, my guess is that therefore, if you're going to play a country who's not a country, but they might well fill in a country who's not all represented with their own deck. They might well fit in as an interesting opportunity for countries that can't fulfill their missions. Some way of refreshing your missions, getting rid of stuff you don't want to do anymore, and taking things from the generic pool. I don't know. But King of the Wends. Decline of the Hansa is not going to do it. Dominate northern trade. Unify Scandinavia is going to be to vassalize everything under one. And that's something, that had been the case before. Meddle in imperial affairs, that's probably not it. Reclaim Baltic shores. Establish colonies, yeah. They tried. Claim Karelia. Polish deluge, this is probably the one. And this is going to be in the 3 section. Owner vassalized 5 or more provinces in Prussia, Wielkopolska, Mazovia, and Malopolska, and Lithuania. And it seems like, it's worth a lot of points. This deck feels very big. I don't know. We've thrown a lot of cards that have been used already out there. But yeah, so that's kind of what I'm aiming for. So what I want to do for that is I'm going to spend 2 cubes. I don't have... we got a town in a stupid place. There's this little slot here. I don't know what the fuck it's for, but it's horrible. I don't know. You could put pieces in there, there's no question, but they're hard to get out. So unless they were big pieces like merchants, they would be troublesome. What am I thinking? Okay, I grabbed my claim, and I'm going to put that claim, with 4 or more provinces, I'm going to have to be pretty violent. I'm going to put that claim in Finland, because there's no one province that I could just take, but this is going to have a 3 defense. I'm going to have to fight the Swedish Navy. This is not going to be easy. Of course, I have a lot of things that support the Polish Navy. So this is kind of like a reverse, and that Polish deluge thing doesn't really feel like you're trying to take over Poland as a country. It's really problematic because here's the thing. Poland has an elective king, and elective kings existed at various times. The Holy Roman Empire is an elective kingship or whatever. But Poland has an elective king, and that king could come from anywhere, like the Holy Roman Emperor could. It was a very similar type of situation. And they did, as we draw later and later especially, take their royal houses from foreign powers. So you had, I believe, a French prince who actually became, I want to say Charles of Anjou, but I don't know for sure, who was at least in the running for it. But I think he actually did become king. But he may have been in the running against Augustus the Strong of Saxony, who definitely became king of Poland. And that's just such a weird situation, because here he is, a ruler in tiny little Saxony, who is also proclaimed king of all Poland. And Poland was by far the greater power, but he had very little power in Poland. So he just created this weird sort of situation, but I think, he involved both countries into wars that were sort of Saxon wars, and just weird shit happened regarding that. Not all of which, or not much of which I remember. Okay, so I dropped my claim. That moves the boat over. I think I'm going to load up, because I've been babbling so much. And we are probably around the halfway point in the turn, which probably means if I babble less and play more, we'll get, a shorter video on the other end, although we have to do all kind of stuff like end of age stuff and everything. For what it's worth, I think the first time I played the original EU board game, I had a really hard time establishing colonies. Maybe not all of them, but I had a hard time defeating Mexico and stuff like that. Now, that may have been that I followed the rules strictly instead of making certain modifications that make it possible to actually take the Aztecs out. I know that I kind of cheat that. I know that the way the rules are written, it is a it's almost an impossible task to do what Cortez did. And you could argue it should be almost an impossible task, but you don't get a historical situation. Here I think it would be an easier task by far. This counts as 2 army, Whoop. But yeah. Anyway, up we go, I guess.